Thank you, everybody, joining us here on ASTV on the Ice. Wayne's World Edition, part one, always with my friend Wayne Kosior. Wayne, good evening. Good to see you again. Busy weekend. Your little guy was not so little, but playing a couple games this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Was watching the games. They made a little swing through Alberta. Played in Edmonton on Friday night against those tough Oil Kings, and equally as tough against the Red Deer Rebels on Saturday night. So a great weekend of hockey, even though they came away with no points, but great effort.
It's all good. Speaking of the WHL, that goes right into our big topic of the evening. These new rules that we kind of saw, we talked about a little earlier in the season. What have you noticed the reception of them thus far, moving forward with the teams you've been watching?
Yeah, well, I mean, the main ones that I see, and I think for the purpose of our discussion, we'll talk about the new helmet rule in fighting. We'll talk about the new icing rule, and I think also the face-offs. I think those are the three big ones. There was a couple other minor rules that came as part of that, and I think let's start with the helmet one and fighting and stuff. And I think it's been a great rule. I mean, I was a big proponent of that particular rule going in, so I was really happy to see it because what I was seeing in the past was players engaging in fights, and the number one tactic was to remove the other player's personal safety gear, being the helmet, which in my opinion is the most important piece of protective equipment there is there. So I just seen that as crazy. This is amateur sports, really, and these are young kids, and all it takes. I mean, people could die if they hit that ice with their helmet off. Now, as far as fighting and normal swinging and punches, if the helmet comes off, well, go be it. That's nothing you can do. But when you're purposely using that to your advantage, it's not good. And, I think it's frankly, brought the fights down. And certainly we're not seeing the helmets getting pulled off because there is a 10-minute misconduct that comes along with that. So I think I've seen great improvement. I, haven't looked at stats to be able to say that, the minutes and numbers of fights is down, but my general observation and belief is that is what it has been. And, so I think it's been all good.
I think for me, the big deal is, someone who has had a couple of Donnybrooks in his day and doesn't have many knuckles left on either of his paws. Why would it make sense for me to punch plastic when plastic never wins rarely against, flesh and bones? I mean, I've seen some good Donnies and I've seen some guys get injured, of course. And, we never want to promote that style of the game, but it is part of the game. I think it will always be part of the game, but it has to be done with the protective matters in place. And for these young players, I mean, they don't have the win-loss columns that a lot of these veterans have when they turn their 30s. And furthermore, if you ask those guys that are in their 30s that have been fighters their whole life, they probably would have appreciated the fact that there was these rules in place so that there would have been less altercations, but more protective altercations. It's player safety has come to the forefront tremendously over the last couple of years. And I think one of them, like you've mentioned, this helmet rule certainly puts that into play.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. You mentioned kind of as players go up to pro, and it's definitely always going to be a part of pro, and the enforcer, and little payback things and stuff like that. And those guys are typically getting paid millions of dollars. And but to your point, there's also a lot of those guys by the time that they're 30, some of them didn't even live that long, but they're having serious mental health issues and stuff like that, and they question should they have done that. And that's why I think it's extremely sad when I see young guys coming up through junior A and major junior and playing primarily a fighting role. There's typically not a good outcome from that in the long run and stuff, no matter even if you make it to the NHL. Is that there's way more horror stories that come out of that than good news stories.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the face-offs. You like the face-off change. You don't like the face-off change. Personally, I like it so it keeps it more fair down the 50-50 line quicker and sooner with more ramification. But you tell me what you like about it, Wayne.
Well, we're going to be at odds on this one, just like the latter part of our segment here today. But, I just think, personally, I've seen a lot of WHL games this year. I've not seen one delay of game penalty called on this. So, I think it's a bit of a farce from that perspective. If it was truly being enforced properly, I'm sure I would have seen a penalty by now. So what I'm actually seeing in real results is that very often the first time somebody's getting called for an infraction and getting the warning, but I've yet to see a second one called. And so I think that just tells me that, really it's something that they're trying, but they're not jumping in with both feet into the pool type thing and stuff. And, you know, based on what I've seen to date, I just seen they're back to the old way where the guy gets tossed, bring a new guy in type thing and stuff. And because I've not seen enough enforcement of, where somebody's getting a penalty.
Is it because the rule is too new, or is it because the stripes just don't want to pull the pin and be the first guy?
It's tough to say. I know the stripes always get direction from the guys above, what they need to be watching and doing and making happen. And, so that tells me that, they're not really being told to push hard on it. And, if we started seeing, 2 or 3 or 4 penalties called a game for these double infractions, I mean, there'd be huge issues and everybody'd be screaming. So, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to do that, because it should be happening, because somebody's not going to just purposely back off and let somebody win the face-off because they've got one infraction. I'm certainly not seeing that. Right. And, I've always been questioning, when refs are, tossing the guy to the circle. I mean, sometimes it's warranted and it's obvious. Sometimes, is it about the guy drawing attention to himself? And, just get in there and drop the puck and, make sure it's reasonably fair is my opinion.
It's discretionary. It's not like they're getting the yellow card on the face-off and then the red card and they're out. It's certainly something that the officials want to make sure that the game flow is occurring and it's the face-offs. I mean, they're happening at a fairer rate as opposed to seeing the advantages one way or another. And I think they're doing a pretty good job in the games that I've seen. But I will agree, It's one of those written rules that is kind of just there to CYA the stripes to make sure that they know what they're doing. And like we said, they can always have meetings with the above and they could say, we got to start looking at this a little more. We got to start looking at that a little more. I just don't want to see it happening in playoffs and having a player get a 2-minute bill for an obstruction during a face-off and that proving an advantage for a game-winning goal in Game 7. So we don't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely important part of the game, face-off, especially in, the zones of the offensive zone and the defensive zones, extremely important. So, to your point, if you're going to enforce it, you better get the players used to it here early in the year. Come playoff, if somebody gets a cheap call, and I call it a cheap call, on 2 in a row in a critical defensive zone face-off and your ace face-off guy gets tossed out, I mean, that's just not what
you might get a Coach Larry Playfair happen again, where everything off the benches get thrown out again, right, Wayne?
Yeah, exactly.
Last but not least, we talked about safety. We talked about face-offs. Let's go back to a safety concern, but also something to keep the speed of the game more moving, and that's the icing calls we've seen change. Tell me a little bit what you've seen in your games you've watched and what you like about it.
Well, personally, I like this new icing rule, and it's basically, the previous rule was as long as you were past your own blue line and you iced it, you could change. Now the rule basically is no matter where the icing occurs from, you're not allowed to change. And I think it's good. It helps keep the game going. Penalizes teams, I guess, as far as icing, which, you typically don't want that. I mean, most people want to see a puck possession game. I think it's best for teams to do that, and if you check most winning teams, they're going to be puck possession type teams. So I like that it's done that. And so it penalizes people, but we're trying to ice it before by just having their guy at the red line, chipping it, when the guy's shooting from his own zone and stuff like that. And, I think it's made for some interesting situations where teams have gotten caught on long shifts and they go and ice the puck and then they got to stay on the ice and go back into their own zone and try to get it. So it, I think it's helped improve the interest in the game and just, introduces another dynamic to icing.
I think it streamlines to the players that are going into the NHL as well. It kind of, they see the rule in the pros. They already know how it works. It doesn't allow for those opposing players crashing into the edge of the boards. Nice to see the excitement for that. The race, don't get me wrong, but I mean, all we need is just that one injury to occur, and then you'll have panels upon panels, just like you and I, Wayne, that discuss how we could improve player safety. One thing that should have been done in retrospect is having this this touch-up icing. So,
yeah, the hybrid icing was definitely a great implementation in the game too, for sure.
Absolutely. Are you ready for the next section, our new hot takes? We're not going 2 questions. We're going 3 this time, if you're ready.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, bring it on. Hope the audience is interested to hear what angle we're going to take today.
Wrapping up first, the first question: what should we take from this week's MJHL showcase?
Well, I'm going to take the pro on this. I mean, as far as showcases, the reason they exist really is so that the higher leagues, including the NCAA and C Sport teams, can see these players all in one place versus have to travel to all the various destinations across Manitoba in this case. And so, I mean, it allows more of those eyes to get on these players, get them opportunity to get scholarships and stuff, and go to the next level. So I think from that perspective, they're a great thing.
I think from my perspective, I think it's a step in the right direction. But from the back end of things, where is this extra financial equity going? I mean, it's great to have these games. I mean, don't get me wrong. An MJHL showcase is kind of like just an extension of the MJHL season.
Correct.
And they're playing these teams 8 or 9 times already throughout the season. Now, what's the difference? I don't know, because it's 2 games during the week. Some of these games are like, some of these teams have already played a Saturday and a Sunday. Now they're playing a Saturday, Sunday, a Monday, and a Tuesday. And then they go into the regular season and play another Friday and a Saturday. So it's like 4 or 5 games within a week. Where's your time for reset? Where's your time for practice? Where's your time to go over some of these other game plans? But like I said earlier, who's getting the monetary gain? Is it the league? And if so, how is it being dispersed to the teams that are playing or aren't playing? And I would rather see a showcase cross provincially, like we're going to see in the beginning of 22 between seeing the Saskatchewans and the Manitobas play.
Agreed.
Number 2 on our take is we've seen so far some discussion on the Bantam draft, but we've also talked about the tangibles and intangibles. Which ones do you think are more important?
Well, I'm going to go with the tangibles on this one, on this debate. And, with the WHL draft coming up here December 7th, it's just around the corner and stuff. And, you and I have been talking on past shows here about, the importance of, tangibles versus intangibles in players and how scouts look at those differently. But, my argument is you got to have the tangibles before the intangibles even becomes a discussion, really, except for in the later rounds where, you have a lot of, let's say, 1,000 colors of gray where the players are pretty similar. Then you may default to there. But at the end of the day, if I'm scouting, I'm looking for the best skaters, the guys with the best IQ type thing, and skills and abilities on the ice. So, I'll go with the tangibles every day. Keeping in mind, I do know intangibles are very important.
Yeah, I mean, when you hit the nail on the head with the first round, you're going to take the best player on the draft board, no matter what. I mean, come to think, a 15-year-old is going to have an amazing prowess on the ice. You would hope that they're young enough that they can still instill some values, some morals, that when they realize how important it is to be drafted, that there is a responsibility and a respect to the game and to the organization, to themselves. But the intangibles, I think, for a lot of these other players, and you think about it, you're only talking about 30 to 40 players at the age of 15 that are drafted. And to think how a player changes over the course of their WHL career or their junior career, there's a lot of intangibles that can occur. And there's a lot outside of hockey that can change the player itself to be better or worse on the ice. So you're right. There's a value to both. But for the small snippet of the first rounders that go in those first 30 or 40 picks, you want to see the skill on the table no matter what.
Absolutely.
Last but not least, our third take. We've seen attendance so far in the junior hockey ranks as well as some minor hockey ranks decreased. Can you give me an explanation as to why there, Wayne?
Well, there's a couple things from my personal opinion. I mean, certainly there's still the COVID issue, and it could be there's people that are afraid to go due to the COVID risks. There's also the people that don't want to go because you do have to be double vaccinated now. So in cases they may not be double vaccinated and are unable to attend. Further, with COVID, people were stuck at home for a long time and stuff like that. And so maybe they found new things to do. And some of those things that they maybe found to do was watching online hockey. There was some hockey that was available before that they could be watching and stuff. In my case, I was watching lots of USHL hockey and stuff. But, even the current leagues, as far as, the junior A leagues, they have the hockey TV program. So you can stay at home and for, a couple $100 a year subscription, watch every single game in the league. And so even though there's benefits of some of that income going to the league, there's also a detriment at the ticket gate and stuff like that. And same with the WHL. So I think those are a couple of two key factors in my opinion.
I think it's just the first one you kind of touched on for me. It's the fact that there are many things to do outside of hockey these days. And I think the value of certain people's lifestyles, has changed, and the support hasn't changed. I don't think. I think if you go to small town neighborhoods and communities, you're going to see a barn that's going to have as many people in there as possible. Granted, a lot of these facilities also still have limitations where you would normally see 100% capacity. You could only see 50 or 75. So that in itself is still one of those, stipulations that we're still dealing with because of this pandemic. But to your point, I mean, support is still there. We still want to see the boys and girls do just as well in junior hockey and see them progress. So really want to thank you, Wayne, for joining me today. Maybe next week we'll solely cover the draft because it'll be 1 week away, and I think we could pick out 3 or 4 names each and really figure out how to really see where these players are going to go. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Really look forward to it. Wayne Kosior here on this installment of Wayne's World. We'll be right back with part 2 with our friend Rick McConnell, U17 head coach with the Pilot Mountain Buffaloes. We're going to talk about his last couple of weekends, as well his upcoming weekend against the Indigenous Sports Academy. Stay with us here on the Ice ASTV. Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment. Rick McConnell joining us here from the beautiful town of Pilot Mountain, Manitoba. Rick, did you get your bus legs gone yet?
Oh, yeah. We just got in. Yeah, it was a long trip, this one, but we had some injury trouble, so we had to stay an extra day, and so we didn't get home till later.
Okay, so a little bit of mending to do. Will everyone be ready to go by this upcoming weekend versus Indigenous Sports Academy?
Unfortunately, no. I've been hit by the injury bug pretty good here, and some key players on my team. So we got 4 or 5 guys down right now, and they will not be playing this weekend. Doesn't look like so. That's an advantage for others. They get a chance to step up and play in some roles they didn't normally get to play in. But we definitely have some key guys out.
Are you going to be moving the D to forwards to D, Rick, or is that too early to do that with this team?
Well, there's sometimes I'd like to do that, but no, I've only got 1 D-man down. Unfortunately, it's probably our top D-man, but he may get backs for the weekend. We'll see. He's not going to skate till Thursday, but I've lost mostly forwards. But no, we're not going to move anybody back and forth quite yet.
Not quite yet. Let's go back to a couple of weeks. You played the U17 Brandon Wheat Kings, 3 out of 4 points in that one. What did you like most about playing against not CSL, HL teams and someone that's kind of a local crew?
Yeah, it was good. It's nice to see different teams. The way our CSHL schedule is set up right now, we're playing a lot of the teams repetitively. So that's kind of why we set it up, to get a chance to play some local hockey, not a lot of travel. And it was nice to go into Brandon and play in the Keystone and whatnot. But they were good hockey games, very evenly matched. Both games could have went either way. We blew the second game. We blew a 2-goal lead in the last couple of minutes with some penalty troubles, but overall it was a good weekend of hockey for my kids. It was kind of a chance to give some kids some little different opportunities and different situations to play, and just work on a few things that we needed to work on for our regular season.
Absolutely. This past weekend, you still a little bit longer of a road trip. Is this the longest road trip you've had thus far this season in Calgary?
Yeah, for sure.
So what was it like for the boys getting used to that travel? Because for some of them, they haven't been on a bus that long, or some of them probably haven't even been to Calgary before.
Very true. Some of them hadn't been through Saskatchewan before. So it was our kids from the East especially. So it was a lot went into it. So yeah, there was lots of questions. And going through Saskatchewan, there's not a lot to see. But once they got into BC and stuff, and yeah, it was a first challenge for us to again, with the school part of it, doing homework on the bus and actually learning to sleep on the bus and just everything that goes into it and being away that long. So it was another good learning experience for us, although we didn't play very well. These trips are excellent. The bus trips, like I said last time I talked, the kids get a lot of bonding and get together on the bus, and a lot comes out there. It builds chemistry, and you see things happen that are good things to bring the team together. So that's all part of it. So it wasn't all bad.
It wasn't an extremely busy weekend on the ice per se, Rick, because it was only 2 games, Edge and IHA, I believe, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, a little bit of downtime in between. So, what was it more player-driven activities and player-driven study hall, or was there a little more intervening with you because you needed to have timetables set up for the players?
No, it's more structured by me. You get up, we get them up at a decent time. They eat. We had study hall for good 2.5 hours. A little rest, pregame meal, and another little rest, and then head to the rink. So, and then after the game, we come back, eat, and they're in bed for a fairly decent time because we played again early the next morning. So it's fairly structured. There's some downtime, of course, to do a little bit of wandering and stuff, but for the most part, it's pretty controlled. And again, the school part of it, I got to make sure they're getting enough schoolwork done in those 2 hours. But the kids have been really good with that. That's one thing I've been pretty happy with. They're getting down and getting their work done when they need to because, well, they know the consequences. If it gets too far behind or things get too backed up, they're not going to get to play. So, but I haven't had too much. I've had little issues, but nothing major that most teenage teams don't have to deal with.
Yeah, they got little drama's okay, but the big drama is, listen, you gotta keep the books on the go, just like the skates got to be sharp, right?
Absolutely.
So I got to ask you this question off the ice: is there a swimming pool involved in this hotel, and has there been a cannonball contest at all?
No, these boys don't get to swim. We don't. I shouldn't say never, but if we end up staying and we don't have a game the next day, on a trip home or something, I may let them, but we never swim well around the world. We've had some ask, yes, but unfortunately I stick to my guns, and we'll worry about playing hockey, and we'll do the cannonballs and that when we have a little free time.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure the pool in Pilot Mountain opens up just before school ends, so we should be okay to see maybe 1 or 2 out there. Rick, you played at Keystone, you've played at Blackjack, you played at Westport. What is the best ice you think of the 3 facilities you've been at over the last 3 weeks?
Well, actually, they were all pretty good. I was surprised in Brandon. The kids said the ice was quicker than normal. I usually find it softer, and you're in that big arena. It was pretty quiet, but I thought the kids said it was pretty good. Winsport's a beautiful place to play. I love going there. Those arenas they're very nice, and our ice here is always fast, so the kids like that. But just to get away from our rink, both of them, I can't. We're both really nice places to play. And like again, some of my kids have never been to the Keystone. I don't know if they call it the Keystone anymore, but Westoba Place or whatever it is.
Westoba Place, I think is
yeah,
what it's called.
That's the kids enjoy that. It was kind of an experience, and they fixed that place up quite nicely over since I'd been in there last 2. So it was good experience for some of our kids that have never been in that kind of a situation. So.
I remember at the Keystone, I remember the last time I played there, I think it was the rodeo or some sort of farm exhibition was happening the week after. So there was more Cowboys than hockey players in Brandon. So it was a whole different story for me. But the boys are back in town this weekend. They take on the Indigenous Sports Academy. You've played them before, have you not?
Yeah, we played exhibition I believe they were our first 3 games they came to town, and we had a 3-game series with them.
Right. So we get to visit them again. What have you remembered in past, and what are the things we're looking forward to fixing, considering the fact that we're going to be short a couple of men on the roster this weekend?
Yeah, the first 3 games we played them, we were really very unstructured. It was our first games, actual game action, not in practice. And they have actually a pretty good team. I didn't know what to expect because they're a new bunch, but they were a good club. They matched up. We had really good games with them. Close. All 3 games were close. So I'm looking forward to it again. We've actually seen them 2 or 3 times in some of the tournaments they've been at, and they've improved as well. So it's going to be good. Again, we're short, but it's disappointing and frustrating at times. But it's a chance for some of these other kids to play some roles that they haven't been, and I'm hoping they'll step up because we've been very inconsistent. My club has been very inconsistent this year. I'm struggling to get them to play 60 minutes of hockey. We're struggling off our start. 2 games and we'll come out flying and be asleep for the second period. So it's a chance again to practice and work on things. And I play every game to win. So I'm intending to go out there and get back. We've lost a couple in a row. We need to get back on the winning ways, but it's going to take hard work. I've really got to get the guys going all on the same page here and put our right foot forward, because right now we're kind of spinning our tires. I'm a little frustrated with some of our work ethic and our inconsistencies. Just it's something I've got to change.
Is it hard for a player who gets to it? And that's just another question off the side here. You're a player. You're attending a prep academy, a sports academy. You're attending school. You're looking to further your education, your academics, as well as your sports performance. And is it hard to find players? Is it hard for players to buy into the every game is we got to get 2 points out of this? Or is it's not about participation anymore. It's about, getting results on the ice. And like you coach that way. I seem to coach that way when it comes to the older ages. I mean, we're not looking for purple ribbons.
Absolutely. And of my 7 years with the academy, this is the first year I've really, as a group, I'm struggling to get them to buy into this, that every shift, I'm a big advocate of you practice well, you play well, and you play as you practice. And to get these kids to buy into having to come to work every day, every shift. And they're finding out, because teams that I think we should be beating, we're taking shifts off and it's costing us. So having video, I can go back and show these kids what we're doing wrong, and our lack of grit to me is an issue. It's been a struggle this year to get these kids to buy into just going out game in, game out, game in, game out. There's too many. It's like there's too many distractions or something. But again, it's a learning process. Some of the kids have come. I say this all the time, but they've come from all different programs, some different levels. Some are a good half of my team is not used to this AAA level that I'm demanding, and I'm pushing these kids every day. And today at practice again, I made it very clear I'm not letting up. If these kids want to develop and work and get up, move on in the game, they've got to buy in, and they've got to come to work every day and work on things that Ernie are teaching them. And if they don't, unfortunately, they're not going to move on in the game. There's a lot of kids out there looking for jobs, but that's my job. That's Ernie's job, to keep on these kids, teach them, push them. And you know how I am. I'm not letting up. I won't till the bitter end, win or lose. I'm challenging myself. I like the challenge, although it's sometimes it's very challenging. But I like my group of kids. It's just a work in progress. It's a team that I've really got to work with. And I go back to, I don't have any older guys that have been with me for a couple of years that I've had in the past for these kids to feed off of and talk to and just see what it's like. If I had a Brett Tataryn or a Kobe Bear here to rub off onto them, just to see, because those kids were very dedicated 3-year guys for me that just every day came to work, and I had other kids to say, watch them. And unfortunately this year with COVID and everything, the way it's all worked out, I've got a whole new group and we have our work cut out for us, but that's my job. That's what it's all about.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Without having that veteran quality to a team, that role model per se, just maybe that element just isn't there, and the players have to find it within themselves and their own team chemistry to find those leaders that are the same, and they're all in the same group. They just have to find it within themselves to play for themselves, play for each other, and play for the team first and foremost. So I think they'll get around to it. I think, like you said, the team, like the games against Brandon, you'll see how you play this upcoming weekend against Indigenous Sports Academy. Both games will be on ASTV. No turkey this weekend, although it's American Thanksgiving. You don't have any Americans on the team this year, do we, Rick?
Yeah, I got
Or two? Is there a couple?
I have one.
One.
Yeah,
So he can do all the cooking on. You'll allow him turkey on Thursday, but the rest of the boys don't.
Yeah, he's one of the ones that's hurt, so he can have turkey, I guess. Well, he might get to play, but I don't. He's my
There we
defenseman.
go. We'll see. But yes, enjoy Thanksgiving tournament or Thanksgiving on Thursday. I know I will. Rick McConnell, thanks for joining me here on the ice. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Always here on ASTV. Thanks for watching, bringing more goodness to the greatness. Thanks to our sponsors, Doak Spoke Fuels, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, as well as the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. They will be playing this weekend against Indigenous Sports Academy. Please join them at Blackjack Stewart Arena. Should be a good tilt both nights, both afternoons, I should say. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the evening and happy Thanksgiving to our friends in the South. Take care. Bye-bye for now.